Bonjour. Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for coming back this week. We have an exciting show planned, but we're also struggling through this ungodly English heat wave right now.
It's nice.
I hate
It's
it.
everyone fucking complains that it's
I
raining
fucking
and shit all the time in this
hate
country.
it.
As soon as you get a lick of nice weather, oh my goodness, have you got sun cream? It's terrible.
It is
Oh my
really
god, the
too
heat.
much if you're not used to it.
No,
like, it really
it's actually really nice, and everyone needs to stop like fucking bitching about it and just actually enjoy the nice weather for once.
I'm cooking
Instead of always finding something to complain about.
I'm having a hard time sleeping. Like, it's a lot. But hey, J. George, thank you very much for coming. I was really feeling the new intro track, by the way. Who was that?
That is Tweeleaf remixing my track Smoking Jazz in the Jungle.
Awesome.
It should be available on streaming services available near you soon.
Is it not up yet?
It's in the pipeline. Like I did this stupid thing basically.
Exclusive access.
I did a fucking stupid goofer basically and like completely forgot that this was done at the same time as all my other remixes, but because I didn't really organize it very well and I was just kind of going through Discord DMs, I fucking missed that one and forgot about it. And then he messaged me like a month after my album came out. I'm just like, dude, are you going to use this? Like, can I just put it out on my Bandcamp if you're not going to use it? And I was like, oh shit. Dude, no, this is amazing. Like, I'm really sorry. Like, this was my first release and I had a lot going on and I was trying to schedule, like, you know, a theatrical screening and all sorts of stuff around it and stuff. Yeah. And it just kind of, I wasn't thorough enough on my Discord message check-in when I was going through and grabbing all my stems and stuff.
We've been pretty shit lately in general, to be honest.
And so
blame the heat.
I did a final master on that and put it out, and it's in the distribution chain at the moment. It's with Lander, and they said that it will be out, but because I didn't specify a date like I did with my other one, I don't know for sure like exactly when it's gonna come out. It's just like gonna come out in the next 5 to 7 days.
Nice. Well, at least we have like those nice things to focus on and like the heat to distract us while the world pretty much goes up in flames. All anyone has been talking about this week is like World War III stuff. I say don't put that energy out into the universe, you know. Don't come into agreement with
the doomsday clock is getting 1 minute closer to midnight, I guess.
They've been saying that forever at this point.
It's now at 1 minute to midnight though. Do you know what I mean? There's no more minutes to go now. This is now in the last minute before midnight.
Oh god. Well, I say don't come into agreement with it energetically because it's just like insane and like absurd that this is the point we're at, but at the same time I'm not surprised. And now of course there's a massive defense arms race happening, and yeah, that's our first topic for tonight, which is Trump's Golden Dome, big beautiful Golden Dome. Mm-hmm. Just in time for potential war with Iran. You know, America is now going to pour...
It's a bit late, isn't it?
Well, it's a bit late, yeah.
Because it's going to take years to build.
Well, they're speculating 3 years at most. But again, I don't believe that
feels very ambitious
timeline at all.
Yeah.
I don't believe it at
all.
That
sounds very ambitious for the scope of what they're trying to do and what they're trying to employ. And I guess we can watch a little clipperino or something about what exactly it is.
Yeah. Trump doing the Black Power
salute.
He's
long said that he'd like a missile defense system similar to Israel's Iron Dome. Tonight, he's pressing ahead with those plans. Along with his Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, the US president is unveiling plans for his $25 billion Golden Dome. He's been speaking at the White House. Just have a listen.
In the campaign, I promised the American people that I would build a cutting-edge missile defense shield to protect our homeland from the threat of foreign missile attack. And that's what we're doing. Today, I'm pleased to announce that we have officially selected an architecture for this state-of-the-art system that will deploy next-generation technologies across the land, sea, and space, including space-based sensors and interceptors. And Canada has called us, and they want to be a part of it. So we'll be talking to them. They want to have protection also.
Wasn't he just threatening to invade Canada like a few months ago? I'm so confused.
Yeah.
And also he's not the first person. Like Ronald Reagan also had like his Star Wars program that he attempted to implement. Like this whole thing surrounding like the weaponization of space has been an element of US politics for like a long time, and an ambition of certain aspects of the elite.
Well, it feels like basically kind of large amounts of the kind of military industrial complex / Cold War kind of went fairly went cold for a while.
Yeah.
In terms of like its stagnation and
Now it's sort of revving back up again.
whatever. But then since kind of I guess what you'd call the Russian invasion of Ukraine or whatever, they've kind of been boasting the hypersonic missile capabilities and stuff like that, which kind of goes beyond some of the necessarily like defense capabilities and tracking capabilities of US and like NATO and stuff at the moment. And so it kind of then starts propagating a new kind of, we do need to keep like making better weapons kind of thing. Because at a certain point it was like, they just kept building these bigger and bigger and like comically big bombs. And then it got to a point where they're like, we actually can't build planes that can like carry these bombs anymore because they're so fucking big. So like we can't like keep building bigger bombs.
A lot of what's leading up to this current conflict is incredibly reminiscent of the Iraq War in terms of, now there's a lot of fear mongering going on about Iran's nuclear program, despite the fact that it hasn't been talked about for ages. And in fact, there was like a deal signed, like an anti-proliferation deal signed not too long ago. But now, of course, there's a lot of fear mongering going on about Iran's potential nuclear program, which is being used as a excuse for a potential war. And again, trillions being poured into the defense budget. And, this whole Golden Dome thing isn't necessarily for protection, quote unquote, which is despite the fact that that's how they're pitching it. It's more about being the first to weaponize and like monopolize the defense system in space, basically. And there's going to be a huge international arms race. I think China's going to be in on it. Russia's going to be in on it soon. Like, I think there's going to be this is the next sort of phase of defense and like arms race, is the weaponization of space.
I think that's definitely what Lockheed Martin would like you to think.
Well, they even mention it on their website. We were reading their website.
Of course
they were talking about lasers.
Of course they would.
They were talking about space lasers. Space lasers have entered. The chat, guys. Like
the point I was trying to make before you pinched me and needed to interrupt me was that they're doing offense by defense, because they can't keep making bigger bombs. But if they all of a sudden have a deterrent system which makes any attack irrelevant, then
that's what they said about the nuclear bomb, and that logic in and of itself is demonic.
Because that leads to mutually assured destruction. But if they have this kind of next level space laser technology to defend themselves from
laser,
to defend themselves.
Is that where we're at now?
To defend themselves from any kind of attack, that means they can't get hit. That's like a totally obscene advantage in any kind of case. And not only that, it's no longer mutually assured destruction, because there's nothing assured about being able to attack the United States with the weapons that you've got.
But again, it's not just about deflecting. It's also about if you have missiles stationed in space, that's far more dangerous.
They're not talking about putting missiles in space, Angie.
What are they talking about then?
They're talking about having fucking energy weapons in space that are able to misdirect the missiles that come up out of the orbit.
That's what I'm saying, but having energy weapons in space gives you an advantage over any country.
Yeah, but
they're not just meant
you're
for
not
deflection.
understanding. Yes, they are. That's the point. It's because they can't get hit anymore.
Yeah, but I know that's how it's being pitched, but I don't think that's where it's going to stop, which is the point I'm making.
It doesn't matter if it doesn't stop
Being able to get weapons out into space has been an aspiration of the U.S. military for a long time, which is why I brought up Ronald Reagan's Star Wars program.
You're talking Trump's points.
How am I
because that's exactly the same shit he said. It was like, it's like Ronald Reagan's Star Wars program.
I'm saying that's their aspiration. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying that's their aspiration. It's been their aspiration for a long time, and they're pitching it as defense. but it's not just defense. It's about
No,
being able
that defense is offense because of the nature of it. Because then nobody can hit America again.
Yeah, of course. It's offensive in the sense that it's like ultimate defense in that sense. But I doubt that it's only going to be used for defense. Having fucking crazy energy weapons up in space is also a big stick to threaten your enemies with as well.
I don't know.
So of course there's going to be a massive international race.
Any of that is like completely unproven science and the sort of thing that you'd hear on like an interview with Stephen Greer. So
well,
it's sort of like you'd have
marvels are happening all around us every day. Jake.
And for them to complete that in 3 years would be like a whole bunch of like scientific disclosure and all sorts of crazy stuff for them to have it as like an energy weapon, right, in space. Because it's not Star Wars. Because we you
never know what Lockheed Martin has in their basement, Jake. They've got the alien technology like in their basement.
It's something like that, but it's
back to what I was saying about the sort of arms race, sort of Cold War style.
It's reintroducing the Cold War because there's no more mutually assured destruction. Yeah. So there now is going to be new ways in which
new deterrence and
new focus on different kinds of weapons. Because this will like prevent any kind of missile coming in. I guess maybe that would also apply for like an EMP or something like that as well. So that kind of does put 2 in 1 at the same time. But they'll basically, or like a cyber attack or something like that, right? That would be like a different way of being able to cause mass or like bring down a country, basically, in a similar fashion.
Yeah, but that's the thing is this has been like a thing in.
So the nature will shift if it's like, oh, okay, unless we also put a shitload of like energy weapons in space, we're also not going to have this shield. But what we can do now instead is like focus our attention on hacking the fuck out of you and making your bank system crash, or like all sorts of mad
an aspiration
ideas
for like major empires for a long time. Like I think the concept in political science is called the Leviathan, which is all about having like the ultimate deterrent or ultimate sort of power symbol that makes you an untouchable empire. And that was at one time the atom bomb. And now, of course, it's shifting into different areas, which is incredibly frightening and incredibly, because it's not just the Golden Dome happening. Trump is also trying to roll out Project Stargate in tandem, which is an AI infrastructure program. Mm-hmm. And, there's a massive sort of Cold War style arms race happening with AI in tandem with this sort of defense kind of arms race thing going on, and it's all gearing up and building up towards World War II and World War III and the systems that are going to be used within it. I mean, Palantir has already been instrumentalized in the Israel-Palestine conflict.
In which way?
Google it. I don't know specifically. We can have a look, but it has been used. I think it's been used as with the missile system to as a like navigation thing or something along those lines.
I can't because all the stuff's
just use my phone here. But Palantir's already been sort of integrated into the current conflicts that are going on, and it's the same thing with this current weird massive, how much did it say it was? It was like $33 billion or something along those lines.
But it would balloon to like 3 trillion or something like that.
That's absolutely insane, considering the fact that America's entire economy is like crumbling and people like can't pay their rent and eat. It's incredibly worrying right now. And I mean, Trump's entire constituency seems to be turning on him, especially this week. There's been so much upheaval in that realm where people who are like avid about Trump during the first the first side of the election cycle are now completely jaded and bitter because it seems as if he's kind of cock teasing war at the moment.
I mean, it seems like they kind of have some kind of deal, but it doesn't say like how and what they're doing with them at all. It's all like super vague, but they had a deal from like 2024, so they've been working with them for a while.
Same thing with OpenAI and Palantir. They also have like this weird tenuous link as well. Like a lot of people have stopped using OpenAI now because of its link to Palantir, and because obviously Palantir now has access to a lot of data through the Trump administration. And if they now, have this weird merger with OpenAI, they have access to even more. But yeah, aside from the AI stuff, when it comes to this defense stuff, obviously other countries are going to get involved. I'm interested to see whether China and Russia follow suit.
Well, I don't know if it's some sort of, it's just purely business, and it's actually just a pitch to kind of get the rest of the world reinterested in American defense technology. Because once kind of Trump came into office and he started being really erratic, all of the other NATO countries did start to talk about upping their defense spending to like beyond what the actual required thing for NATO would be, despite them not doing it for years and stuff, but doing it by investing in their own country's military tech companies, not America's. And so it's just sort of like, yeah, keep investing in your militaries, guys, but wait, not like that. You have to buy our stuff.
Yeah.
It's like,
no, thank you. No.
And Germany's one is like stock has gone crazy, and the amount of like stuff that they're trying to engineer and do now is quite crazy.
Like what?
Like they're gonna like make an army, dude. They're gonna have like a
It's quite scary to think about Germany having an army which hasn't been the case since World War II. Strange times we're in currently. Very, very strange times.
Do you think they'll just be like The Ring? It'll be like The Ring and Smeagol, and they just sort of can't help themselves, and it will just get a little bit like, oh fuck it, here we go again, boys.
No, I don't know. I'm really hoping that this is all just bluster and sort of global geopolitic reshuffling. I hope it's not like serious, but I could just be doing cope. I hope it doesn't topple into World War III. I hope these defense systems aren't like,
I mean, it's all pointing there, isn't it?
Everything
everything
is. Let's be honest.
And whilst I came back from Japan, like, oh my goodness, I really want to get out of the UK before Nigel Farage becomes the Prime Minister. Now I'm like, oh my God, I really need to get out of here before Nigel Farage becomes our wartime Prime Minister through fucking World War III.
Jesus Christ.
Like I don't wanna do that, bro. I do not want to do that.
No, thank you.
A skiddly bit, like absolutely not.
Oh dear.
So
I mean, I don't know, like that's the thing. It doesn't seem as if World War III happens, it's going to be a traditional war, especially like now that they're talking about golden domes and like the weaponization of space. I think World War III is going to be like, shooting lasers at each other and like that sort of thing. Because we're not in the sort of era where people are going to go to war.
I don't know. There was
like that, like,
There was an interview I saw with David Mitchell recently where he was sort of talking about, because he had done some new book basically, and he was sort of comparing COVID to the Vikings, because it was just sort of history that happened to unsuspecting people all of a sudden.
But that happens every day.
Yeah, kind of, like, but not not in such a way where like it would disrupt society, like in such an everyday way,
in a very visceral way.
In a very visceral way where people were dying and like all of that kind of stuff. So it's sort of like what the most tragic thing is basically when you're just reading stuff is not like the fucking stupid stories of kings and all of their antics and shit, but it is just the hundreds of thousands and millions of people that like history just sort of happened to, and like what it's like to be kind of caught up in those moments. It definitely feels like
one of those times for sure.
It feels like that like every day a little bit more at the moment, which is not great.
No.
And I think like there was also I read somewhere that there's been like a big burst of extra solar flares and solar energy or something over like this beginning of the summer and stuff. So I wonder if
happy summer solstice
everyone's brains and shit
are just like fried.
Well, it's not just like fried, but it is like, because all of that stuff is this weird ephemeral energy and stuff in which you can't really control, with like polarity and magnetism and these like forces which aren't just powerful UV rays or whatever, right? It's like, so it's not necessarily, oh, it's cooking your brain, but it's like sending these other sorts of signals in which you're not necessarily associating with the sun in an extra fashion, and that does like disrupt nature and like things.
Well, it's scientifically proven that like the sun makes people more susceptible to rage and more susceptible to acting out of character in terms of being hostile to one another and stuff. And yeah, like we're going through this heat wave. There's all this talk of war. There's all this unrest in the astral realm currently.
But that's what I feel like it will just be like. It will like I will be in the UK with fucking Nigel Farage as a wartime prime minister, and I'll be like, history's just happened to me, bro. This sucks. Like, I didn't want to be here. I wanted to be in Japan. Like, this fucking sucks.
Oh god.
You know.
Oh god,
like,
no! You can't put that kind of energy out into the ether. You can't come into agreement with it. But yeah, I mean, and even then with this whole, there's no guarantee that this whole stupid Golden Dome defense plan is going to work. It's clearly like inspired by Israel's Iron Dome, which has failed. I mean, Iran managed to break through it.
Well, you say failed.
times.
I think that's a bit like harsh criticism.
Oh, here we go.
Like when you see it, like you literally see the videos of it working, and then it's like, oh yeah, that one got through. But like, look at the 100 that it stopped.
Yeah, of course,
and like look at
it's not foolproof, and it's not like
sure, but it's doing a pretty
against significant destruction.
It's doing a pretty good job.
Which has happened in Israel recently. And yeah, like despite like the millions and jillions of tax dollars that have gone into their defense in that sense,
when they send missiles,
it's not necessarily been this giant leviathan deterrent against war and unrest.
No, but let's put it the same way, right?
Which is what these defense companies, like if you read Lockheed Martin's website, they're pitching this Golden Dome. They're pitching it like it's the new iPhone or something.
Yeah,
they're selling the idea.
Yeah, because that's their company that sells it, dude. That's what
demonic.
They're gonna do.
It's actually demonic.
That's what they're gonna do.
The idea that like by pouring billions and billions into these like weapon systems and deterrent systems, you're somehow making yourself safer. When really and truly, you're just like antagonizing your neighbors, making them more afraid, pouring more into the war machine, pouring more into the energy of war. And the more we feed the energy of fear around this stuff globally, the more these fucking evil companies profit. So when I say don't put that energy into the ether, don't come into agreement with it, like I actually mean that on a deeper level, because that's what they're profiting from, is fear, our shadow, basically. And they appeal directly to it. Like when you read the website, that's exactly what they're appealing to. Like not just to nations, but to any random person reading it.
But when like Israel sends 100 missiles to Iran, how many hit?
Yeah, they hit like a lot. Pretty much all of them hit.
Right.
Of course, yeah.
So like that's the same. That's what that Golden Dome is going to do on a level with any other nation in the world, including like China or like anybody. It doesn't matter if
China's probably building its own Golden Dome now.
It doesn't matter if you've got like as many nuclear weapons as the United States. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if your bombs are bigger than the United States. That doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's the same exact shit that is going on in the Middle East at the moment.
I get what you're saying.
It doesn't matter how mad all of these other countries could be at Israel. They could fucking do all sorts of shit, and 1% of whatever they try and do will fucking get through.
I understand what you're saying. All I'm doing is critiquing the overall mentality.
That's smart. If every country could do it, they would.
All I'm doing is critiquing the overall mentality of like this sort of escalation. We started first by escalating the nuclear arms race, and now we're escalating it into the very fucking fabric of space. No, space itself, putting fucking energy weapons in space, Jake. That's where this is heading. These fucking evil tech companies are going to continue to feed on our fear of each other and our resentments and our hatreds until we've like enclosed ourselves in this fucking disgusting technological unnatural dome, and it's going out into space, like on a philosophical spiritual level. That's like pretty fucking dark.
If you believe the schizos online, Angie, Raytheon already has a neutrino emitter that can cause an earthquake anywhere on Earth.
Where did you read that?
There's some schizo fucking dude on the internet called Eric Hecker that's been like talking about this for like the last few years.
Is he like a new Bob Lazar figure?
kind of, but like
Yeah.
he's not even an engineer. He's just kind of, he was like, I'm a plumber. And I worked for Raytheon, and because I had to have access to all of these areas, I was one of the only people that could piece it all together. And it was sort of a little bit just like, brother, you sound insane. You do sound insane. They do legitimately have this facility, but all the things you're saying right now sounds fucking insane. But also like really terrifying if true. But mostly sound like a fucking real life green text.
Well, even then, though, these companies, like, they're feeding on our shadow, and like they're feeding on our fear, and it's not just the tech companies and the weapons manufacturers. It's also the fucking news cycle surrounding this stuff as well, and the political discourse surrounding it. Either you support NATO or you support Russia. Either you're like, you know, an Israel stan, or you're fucking Iran stan or whatever.
Well, not even just that. I think it's also just bad for everybody's general mental health. Like when you look at all the photos of World War II, not a smartphone in sight. Everyone just living in the moment, right?
Shut the fuck up.
But now, like everybody is so fucking addicted to like the feed and to know or to whatever that like you're in this suspended like state of fucking anxiety and like pensive, like, oh my god, something could pop off at any minute, and I want to.
That's what I'm saying.
I want to be able to know that, so I could, like, you know.
It feeds the shadow that these tech companies are preying on.
Duck and cover,
all the way
or
from the social media kind of demons to the weapons manufacturing demons. Us being in this sort of division, in hatred, in our base emotions constantly, and also like, you know, coming into agreement with the idea that World War III will inevitably occur. I think that's what they want. I think it's like a form of like chaos magic they're doing on everyone's fucking brain right now.
J. George, my dad works for Rockstar and I play GTA 6 Energy. Yeah, that is exactly it, dude. And yeah, if you Google this Eric Hecker guy, like make a judgment for yourself. I kind of think he's probably full of shit, like, you know. But he was like another whistleblower that came out around the same time as some other people, which have been proven to be like credible in their position and somewhat most of
about what?
Aliens and all sorts of like fucking crazy shit and whatever, because they use these neutrino whatever the fucks to like bring down UFOs. That was kind of like the fucking story. But then he was saying that they also use it to like make
earthquakes.
And that the earthquake in like something in like New Zealand in like some recent time was caused by this fucking neutrino blaster thing.
Oh yeah, weird.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Weird. But yeah, back to the whole sort of not coming into agreement with the war thing. Like I said, this is what these fucking companies feed on, all the way from social media up to the war weapons manufacturers.
We should aspire to be like the people of World War II. You shouldn't be on your phone all the time in this anxiety state. You should just be in World War III, no smartphones, living in the moment.
Well, not just that, taking time to like unplug from it. Of course, being informed is important, but you don't have to be in the constant 24-hour news cycle in order to be informed. I think that's kind of what these news organizations, influencers, talking heads, whatever, want you to think, that like, unless you're listening to us, like, you're in danger. And we're here to think for you so that you can have the correct opinion on everything, type of thing.
I'm not 3Dog. I wish I was, but like I don't have a box full of like jaunty like Fallout tunes to play you and tell you about the upcoming apocalypse.
I mean, I don't want to even feed into the idea of the energy of that, or the energy of the idea that it is inevitable that there will be war. I think that the narratives that are put out there for a reason, so that we come into agreement with them and we start thinking that way, and eventually reality kind of shifts in that direction. And we still have time in a lot of ways to push back against a lot of these currents, both in like the proliferation of like unethical AI and in the just waste that is going into some of these defense things that are preparing for wars that are unnecessary.
Well, from like, I think the last time sort of stuff got this tense in terms of, total annihilation and all of stuff like that, was either like in probably the most recent time was the 80s, but other time was in the 60s, like with just before JFK got assassinated and stuff. And all the files and stuff that came out around that basically have been trying to, a lot of the narrative that some journalists have been talking about it is essentially that he was trying to make already a denuclearization pact with Russia because of apparently some UFO stuff that had happened around some of the bases and stuff. And they didn't want to start firing nukes off thinking that each other were attacking each other when there were these things that were happening. So they just basically wanted to put a pact to fucking put all of the nukes away and like dismantle them and get rid of them, and then he got assassinated or whatever. That's kind of like the theory that's getting windled around with the kind of recent stuff. But even like around the same time, you had all these other ideas around like how you would bring about world peace and sort of change mentality of these people that wanted nothing but war and just to fucking keep proliferating the military industrial complex and push it forward in this direction. And every time any kind of counter comes around it, it just kind of gets snuffed out. Yeah. Or like even if you have like a president that's literally there sitting willing to do this shit, there's like that kind of deep state element of stuff that will power. Just that will kind of unfortunately seemingly fucking win like almost like every time.
Even now, like, you know, there's speculation that the reason Trump is sort of folding to Israel's request to be an attack dog for Iran, and why a lot of Republican and Democratic politicians seem to be sort of following suit, is because, like, you know, the Epstein list and the idea that like Mossad was involved, and that a lot of these politicians are, you know, they like the Israeli intelligence has like dirt on them. You know, you never know how dark power is operating and why people are taking certain stances and why they're folding in certain ways. And again, it's all for the more they stoke fear and division and the darkest aspects of human nature, the more they can sort of continue to profit.
The Israel state is also one of the glowiest states of them all.
Yeah, big time.
Because even though there's all this sort of Iranian building a nuclear weapon or enrichment or whatever the fucking kind of narrative is they're trying to pull with this.
Iraq war reminiscent.
I think like Iran, if I'm remembering what I read correctly, Iran have like agreed to investigations of their plants and like open stuff or whatever, and the only country in the Middle East that has that potential or the capability that is refusing any kind of investigation into their capabilities is Israel. Yeah. And yet they're the ones that are going, trust me, bro, our intelligence is the shit. Globally, you all know that our intelligence is the shit, and it's got really good information that those guys are doing really bad stuff. But you're not allowed to come anywhere near us and look at what we're doing and doing this. It feels just like
that's why I brought up the Palantir connection. You already have American tech companies that are already like working in cahoots with the Israeli government. You know, also there's there's so many like ties there that it's like.
Well, Ted Cruz was fucking talking like they're like already like lockstep gonna fucking bomb Iran tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So it's already a done deal, and they've been waiting for an excuse for half of the Republican Party, right?
It's so evil, and I hope it doesn't happen. I hope that. I really want to, but then again, dark power overrode all of the sort of energy that came out against the Iraq war as well. I mean, one of the biggest protests ever in this country occurred, you know, when was it? It was in, what was the year?
For what?
For the anti-Iraq war protests.
Oh, it was 2000 or 2001.
Yeah, 2001. I think it was a million people in London. 1 million people showed up in London. Like all the celebrities were out, all the British celebrities were out, everybody was out in droves, and fuck all occurred. We still followed America into the catastrophe. And And that's what I fear is it's like a complete repeat of the script. And already they have plans for how they're going to accelerate, not only like how they're planning on, funneling gajillions of dollars into defense, but also how they're going to use like artificial intelligence and all of these other systems in tandem as well.
Well, what I find hilarious is like that, like unless I'm kind of misremembering my history here, like all of the CIA and kind of operations that happened to facilitate the revolution in Iran in like the 70s or whatever, in the late 70s. That was all like that was a scandal for like the American government to be seen like directly kind of involved with that. And I think also wasn't the whole like Ollie North funding the Contra and all of that shit was like a big smear on Reagan's like time in office and whatever. And now you literally have like
it's like a repeat of
congressmen and people frothing at the mouth publicly on Twitter going, we will fucking change the regime in Iran.
Yeah.
It's sort of just like how the times have changed.
But it's a repeat.
Do you know what I mean?
It's a repeat and a resurgence of his agenda, both in foreign policy and also technological acceleration. Reagan was huge on that shit. He was big on that shit. And like that was why I brought up his Star Wars program. He was trying to do exactly what Trump is doing now with the Golden Dome. But of course, like on a much higher and more technologically advanced scale now with Trump.
I don't know, because it's funny because they again like
it's creepy
in that like Star Wars thing when he kind of like mentions that is like either around the same time or actually like that same kind of public speech or whatever where he talks about where he's talking with Gorbachev or someone basically. And he asks him, if we got attacked, would you help us? Like if we got attacked by another like an alien species or something, would you help us? And then he replies like, of course. It's like one of the first kind of like weird nice like we're gonna get on, we're not gonna we want to kind of not be this antagonistic force to each other anymore. Moments between Reagan and Gorbachev,
the foreign policy,
is this thing after they're talking about Star Wars and all sorts of shit. It's like
foreign policy directive of the 20th century was still for these big empires to have the Leviathan, and that was what they believed would keep peace and global stability. And now you're saying that it takes aliens coming, basically.
Alan Moore knew this.
It seems like we just keep escalating it up. So first of all, it was the nuclear bomb that was the Leviathan. Now it's having space lasers, space energy beams or whatever you called it. And then it has to escalate all the way to a literal cosmic existential threat before humanity will like stop acting like monkeys flinging their shit around.
Alan Moore knew this. He told us all of this in Watchmen.
Yeah, true. Very true. Very true. It's just disappointing, that's all.
That's why Dr. Manhattan makes the big alien tentacle thing.
It's disappointing. Are you saying we have to take on the role of Dr. Manhattan and like Project Bluebeam needs to happen or something? Some kind of intervention into current affairs.
I think it's more like how weird how these kinds of things have been a bit like linked at the same time, if you know what I mean, and they seem to come in waves and like in through either history, time or moments, or there's sort of a confluence of like
it's
stuff.
It's more technological acceleration through things like computing and UFO sightings. All of these things seem to come in tandem with one another.
Yeah,
and it's like throughout history they see there whenever. I don't know what it is. If it's some kind of conjunction astrologically.
And there is at the moment. There's all these weird spheres and stuff that people are seeing, like in China, in Colombia,
in
like,
Pakistan as well,
all over the place. So it's just sort of like, what the fuck is going on there, dude? At the same time as everything is kind of heating up or whatever. It's
the collective unconscious doing its thing, and it's really interesting how we said that like an existential / cosmic threat would be the only kind of stakes that would wake humanity up, because in Jung's UFO,
but it's not even though, because you've had some of the most like public press, not even press, but like government fucking hearings about the topic in the most official capacity, with some pretty crazy fucking information and claims made within those things, and yet it's still kind of the 10th on the or not even on the top of the list of things that you want to really talk about.
That was kind of what Jung's postulation was in his UFO essay, was that during these times of like psychological stress, upheaval, and uncertainty in the collective unconscious, these things tend to appear. And we tend to project our desire for salvation and hope onto them. He gave examples that happened during World War One, but during World War One, these things appeared in more angelic or supernatural form. But now they appear in like technological form in that sense.
Well, they even appeared like that in World War II and stuff, and you know, whatever.
Well, he was talking about World War One. World War One, he specifically brought up the example of the troops at the Mons, and they saw angels. During that period, I think it was a really brutal battle that was like pretty hopeless, and it was British soldiers. They saw angels.
You saw Mr. Burns come out of the woods
saying, "I bring you love,"
and everybody dropped their weapons. It's like that football story.
But that's the thing is, we are desiring. We're in a time now where things are so fucked up that there is this deep yearning and desire for salvation bubbling up within the collective unconscious. And I think it's being projected in a lot of spurious, like unhealthy ways. But I also have hope that something might arise out of that yearning for sure as well.
I don't know. I don't know
what it is. I don't know what it's going to look like. But I think I do have hope that something positive has the potential to arise out of the yearning for, you know, a savior or whatever, if it's channeled in the correct way. But unfortunately, it's getting channeled in a lot of negative ways, like the Trump cult is one example of that. You know, even our governments, the reason our governments are looking to give all their money to Lockheed Martin to create these like fucking defense systems is because they're scared and they're looking for a save-all solution that they're projecting that hope onto. The concept of like the Leviathan or whatever is exactly that. And this idea that we need to keep escalating our defensiveness. This is exactly why Israel is doing the fucked up actions that it's currently doing now. It's a sickness. This is a sickness, and it's just gonna keep getting worse unless we do our shadow work.
I guess Iran is not an emirate.
I'm not sure if it is or isn't.
I mean, I would guess that Emirates would be like NATO or something, right? Like you attack one, you attack all of them.
I don't know. I don't think that's how.
You know,
like you think that that's kind of.
Arabs don't fuck like that.
No, unfortunately not.
They're all a little bit like different, so they're just like, I don't know about that.
No.
Well, even like that's kind of like what a lot of people have said about the response to Gaza and all sorts of stuff as well, right?
That there hasn't been enough support by Arab nations and things like that.
Or even when they have, it's been pretty bad, like in the countries that they end up in and stuff like that.
But even then, the actions that Israel are taking, again, are spurred, again, by the same logic of defensiveness, and that we have to have maximum fucking defensiveness in order to ensure maximum safety and blah, blah, blah. It leads to psychotic actions and the excusing of psychotic actions.
Anywho, let's fucking talk about a different way the world is melting in this heat, in this damn heat. Music's melting.
Yeah, sadly.
Music's melting with AI and like all of the crazy fucking shit that's been going on at the moment, and nobody's safe, basically.
And it's Timberland's fault as well.
I wish I could like have a video to play you of this, but the only thing available for this is this image and literally everyone and their fucking grandma giving their opinion about it. There is no music and there is no video. I'm not even sure if this is taken from a music video or if this is just a still image that he's created to kind of promote this idea. But his idea, Timberland's idea, is basically that he is going to make his own music label and generate pop stars completely.
Using AI
for character creation, if you'd call it that, and then making videos of them, making their music, everything else. And so, yeah, that's kind of like what he's come up with. And his first artist that he's going to launch on his record label is called Tata, and she looks like this.
K-pop.
She looks like some sort of like generally Asian looking, trendy millennial or trendy Zoomer. Sorry.
Yeah. But I mean, it makes a lot of sense because he manufactured a lot of the pop stars of the early 2000s in a similar way. Like,
yeah, and then you don't have to worry about them getting addicted to drugs and like dying or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I just the thing. I guess my point with this is like, it's kind of in some ways like the same concept as Hatsune Miku, like the Japanese Vocaloid artist of 10 or 15 years prominence. I'd need to see that.
Thing?
Yeah. With the blue hair and whatever. She's in Fortnite. She's like everywhere. Hatsune Miku's like fucking massive. If you got a brand deal with Hatsune Miku, it's almost guaranteed you're going to sell a shit ton of stuff. It's pretty crazy. It's been in Magic the Gathering, I think, like everything. But I think the difference with Hatsune Miku is that like basically she was still drawn by a person. There is a team of people that animate her and do all of these things, that write the music, that I think that even there probably is like a singer that just isn't public, or there's maybe many singers that kind of get put through some crazy vocal chain.
On TikTok Live. I saw a few months ago. I saw Timberland on TikTok Live, and he was getting random TikTok denizens to like sing for him. And I was like, what the fuck is Timberland doing on TikTok Live? But it turns out he was like being an Ursula the Sea Witch and like using the voices of these like random amateur singers to train his AI model.
Maybe. I highly doubt it. Like he's partnered with this company called Suno, which is actually like going to court with Sony and like a few companies, I think, a few record labels. Of the same ilk, of the same kind of caliber as Sony Music, to sort of basically challenge them to say, hey, you've pulled all of the music that's publicly available on the internet, including all of our copyrighted, stuff, to train this thing. And so therefore anything that this outputs, or you could make this output something that is essentially the copyrighted material, or I'm not entirely sure kind of how the whole thing is basically like it's unethical AI because you've stolen artists' stuff to train this on. And that is kind of the main kind of attack, I think, for a lot of generative AI, whether it's audio, whether it's video,
the reason
photos,
I brought up
anything.
The TikTok Live thing is because a lot of the amateur artists that he was singing with, that were singing for him, came out and complained afterwards and said that many of them were led to believe that they were going to be signed by Timberland's label, and then he announced that it was going to be an AI label. So they were speculating that perhaps he had used the sort of auditions that they did to train his AI models, basically, because they were under the impression that this new label that he was creating was going to include human artists. And yeah, this seems to be where the future is going. I mean, Grimes got ahead of the curve a couple of years ago by basically outsourcing her own voice for anyone to use and making it kind of open in that regard, as long as she got, I think it was like 50% of the cut or something along those lines. So she's sort of like already given into this model in that sense, and she's already been awarded for it. I think this year she was given, I forget what it was, like some award. I forget what award it was, but it was for some music award based on her innovative, whatever they called it. They saw it as like an innovative thing that she was doing by kind of giving away her voice in this way. And yeah, it's the same thing. A lot of the artists that Timberland was working with on TikTok
Well, it depends.
were under the impression that they were gonna be.
It depends. Like
fined.
if he used their song and then like they can hear that in something that he releases afterwards, then they
But
absolutely.
that's the danger of AI. There's no way you can tell.
Well, no, because they
There's
would have
no way you can tell at all.
they would have done an audition that's been recorded that they've played original music in.
Mm-hmm.
He then releases a song. That's just a straight copyright case.
No, because
Do you know
the
what
AI
I mean?
the AI could do things like be inspired by certain lyrical choices, by certain melodies, by certain things that aren't necessarily easy to pinpoint or trace in a legal case.
Well, you know what? I think the whole argument,
danger of
the
it.
whole argument kind of does rest on this upholding of the idea of copyright in the first place, and it's kind of an assumption that you agree with the way that copyright currently works,
But that's
or
the reason why Grimes
whatever.
That's the reason
right?
why Grimes is currently being rewarded by the music industry, because she's now working on a post-copyright model, basically.
Kind of like she's working on a licensing model, which is different from copyright. So you're right in that sense, but like what I'm talking about is more like, you know, that's not always just like a certain given. Like I'm a fucking musician, but I don't really think that copyright is necessary, especially on the internet and the way we kind of think about stuff in this way. It does need to kind of change with technology that you have and whatever, like, because the whole concept of, like the reason that they kind of lost the case a lot of the time with Pirate Bay and all of this stuff was like, number one, hosting files and all sorts of kind of nuances of the case, but also to steal something is to take away from the owner. In the digital world, there's no such thing. You've made a perfect copy of this thing, which can be fucking distributed with technology and and you've just navigated your way around like the kind of bullshit human rules around it, right? And we should kind of embrace the capabilities of the ways that we can share information instead of use like antiquated bullshit systems to hamper our freedom of expression and all sorts of stuff.
I agree 100%.
In the internet age. And these were arguments being made by very like crazy Swedish guys in like 1998 and like beyond, and the guys that basically founded the Pirate Bay and all of this kind of stuff. This was kind of their main principle and point of the Pirate Party in Sweden.
Yeah, but they also, you know, things like, you know, CP and drug trafficking and human trafficking and all of those different elements.
Well, yeah, that's because they're complete free speech absolutists,
yeah, of
right?
course, but
and,
there are also ethical and moral issues that, but we're not going to get into that.
I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about their idea around copyright specifically, because it does get all very weird when you start to go into all the other things that they believe in.
But they're like they're libertarians. They're libertarians,
but when you just talk about what their main thing was around copyright and the internet and the way that it, like, we are thinking about ideas and information in a digital age and that kind of stuff, and what ownership means and all of these kinds of things, these are all really interesting and brilliant fucking conversations that are completely assumed upon by everybody, that we're all just like in lockstep agreement with that. And I don't think that that is necessarily like 100% the case. And it's not even a conversation that's open for debate, which fucking sucks.
But I also don't think it matters at this point now that, you know, this sort of generative AI has entered the chat, because I don't think people care that, especially like someone like Timberland, I don't think he cares deeply about any of that. I think he cares about getting to the product quicker. And someone like Timberland sees music purely as a product, a commercial product, not necessarily art, which is why this sort of thing is wildly appealing to him. Like J George just said in the chat, they'll never OD, never have non-PC opinions, never make a metal machine of music or anything remotely experimental.
Haha.
It's very
Okay,
true.
well, I'm sorry to burst your bubble, J George, but I am my next tab in my sharing presentation today is exactly this point. So I didn't really like have a problem necessarily with this as much when you're thinking about it in terms of making a product like Hatsune Miku, because it is just, instead of you having all of these guys and people making this artificial pop star, you can now just do it with a bunch of fucking machines. And the idea is still you're making this stupid fucking fake pop star. It's not like you're still making a product. It's not like it's with any kind of
but the line
real
between artist and product has been so fucking blurred and has been so fucking eroded. If there was a clear distinction between those two things, I don't think that I would be as despairing about the state of the music industry.
No, my point is
because of AI and because of generative AI and the impact that it's inevitably going to have in terms of like, you know, creating a sea of slop, and it's already sort of happening. That slopification effect has already kind of been inculcated into the music industry through the way that, you know, music has become, the line between artist and product has been completely blurred.
Well, not only that, it's also just the way that people engage with music, right? Like, I'm someone that absolutely thrives in fucking niche genres and stuff like that, and even like the stuff I'm doing at the moment with sort of my atmospheric jungle project and stuff that me and Angie have been doing together and the gigs that we've been playing and the sort of the project that I've been building up. You know, there has been like a controversy online basically of there's one of the channels that's been uploading these atmospheric jungle mixes is highly suspected of being mostly or if not completely AI generated.
Don't play any of it.
I won't play any of it.
I don't want any copyright. That's why we got yeeted off of Spotify.
I'm not going to play any of it. I'm just going to I'm just going to show you the channel so you can see which one it is and like which kind of playlist these are that you can see for it. Hang on. If I go back on this one. So the channel's called Orion. Oh yeah, I loaded that page because it has the description. Hang on. So the description is all tracks made by me and 8 other friends. For more on how we make the playlist today, here's a reply we left on an older comment. We each make about 3 songs minimum per day on a bad day, and the playlists have about 10 to 12 songs. Not true, because they're about 6 hours long, most of them. So one day worth of songs, we can make 3 playlists. We don't make songs each and every day. We do take breaks, but not all at once. They upload one of these, or were uploading one of these, literally every day for almost a month straight, until they've now kind of cottoned on to the fact that most people realize that they're fucking scamming AI bastards. And yeah, so you can kind of read the rest of the sloppy fucking thing from this, trying to justify like how they're able to generate 6 hours of music a day to post on YouTube. Yeah. And because
same in the video essay space as well. It's
as you
really
said,
demoralizing.
as you said, I'm not going to like press play on this to kind of you know, to avoid any copyright stuff. But if you literally go on any one of these playlists and press play at the start and then jump in, as I did, 42 minutes later, tell me if they're still using the same break and the same samples and the same, because it's just variations on the same AI generated like shit, and that's why they've been able to make like 6-hour playlists. And the discouraging thing about a lot of this is that there are half of the comments are like keen-eared jungle fans and people that are really into the niche genre and are calling it out for what it is, and then there are playlist listeners that like have it on and go, oh, this is fucking great.
That's the effect.
And it has over, most of their playlists have 250,000 plays or even 500,000 plays. And they're taking that away from genuine people that are trying to contribute to the space and to the genre and to the culture.
That's the effect of a lot of this stuff, though. I mean, the algorithm already kind of dumbed people down and made people less active in how they consume music. People were just consume any sort of culture. People were already kind of passive consumers to begin with, but now passive consumption has been normalized through like algorithmic, you know, discovery. And now it's even worse. People have become even more dumbed down and NPC like because of the slopification of quote unquote content with all this AI generated stuff.
And people do this because at the end of the day, they're seeking an easy way for them to make fucking passive income or whatever fucking stupid fucking phrase it is, right?
That's the saddest thing.
It's not to even try and use the tools to like even just give themselves
interesting with music,
even just give themselves a shortcut into like, you know, making some interesting sounds or kind of getting started with a song of their own, but just full on trying to take full fucking hours of watch time away from people that are genuinely trying to do stuff. And obviously I'm like one of those people personally trying to do something and whatever, but I know it's hard to say this isn't coming from like sour grapes or like a fucking bitter place or whatever, but it is a little sucky that like kind of, you know, you can kind of do something really kind of original and like heartfelt and whatever, and it kind of doesn't really.
Somebody who makes fucking video essays.
At the end of the day,
choir,
you know, an AI playlist will get 500,000 views on it, and most of the top comments are just praising it and glazing it, and are not kind of even aware of how bad it is.
Yeah.
So that's kind of J. George, sorry to burst your bubble, but if you've got a niche genre that can be playlisted on Spotify or anything else, 100% there are going to be some people that are already doing this, probably within it right now.
Yeah, big time.
So yeah, that kind of sucks, and that really bummed me out. But it did warm my heart that basically a bunch of other DJs online saw this and have been like calling it out, and every time I see one of their mixes like on my YouTube homepage, I just report it as spam, because that's what it is, right? Like that's what you will. It's like basically reporting this stuff as spam is the same sort of principle as fighting people in like comment sections or like on Twitter. Like, it's pointless. Jack's Films.
The internet's like saturated with this shit now.
No way, dude. Jack's Films does the same thing for people that do shitty reaction videos that just steal the video and don't say anything or add any commentary and just like I never would have guessed that, and then it plays the next TikTok or whatever. Because they're just stealing a video.
It's the desire for clout and money that's driving all of this.
It's just money. It's not even like they're just stealing it.
It's not. It's by clout. I mean the monopolization of specific spaces and currents within the algorithm, and that's precisely what is attractive to somebody like fucking Timberland, you know. And also, a lot of people do this stuff, like you said, to generate passive income. That's the incentive. The incentive isn't to explore something great or make something great. It's to print money by having content on the internet. And this is why I hate the internet so much right now, and I engage with it as little as possible, because it's just so saturated with that energy of cynicism that it's just like, bleh, bleh, gross.
Melissa agreed. I'm a writer. I use AI for ideas, not to replace the process completely. It's a little infuriating. Yeah, it is, because like again, I'm also a super creative person, and have used AI to kind of in the workflow or in the process of doing artwork or something like that, and whatever, that could be seen as just as bad as someone making shitty fucking music with AI as well. And I totally get that. And you know what? I'm actually kind of not going to use AI art anymore for this thing. It was more, I was kind of excited by all the technology and was kind of figuring it out, and I thought I did actually end up making something cool with it. But it still took like, me photoshopping the fuck out of that and kind of making it its own thing, and not kind of just there you go, out it churns.
Being creative with the elements that it generates is different than just putting slop out into the universe.
And even the potential, I think there was a fake video I saw of an idea that someone is still currently engineering, but it's basically like they say, give me the lead sound from Kraftwerk robots, and the synth GPT then goes, let me think about that. And it fucking generates you up the synth preset that sounds bang on like fucking Kraftwerk's robots or whatever. Crazy. And it's like, okay, that's really fucking cool. And that's a really interesting way of like utilizing machine learning and AI whilst still you being able to kind of be the main driving force of stuff.
I think that there are lots of creative ways that these tools can be used. What I hate is the cynicism that's generated by the incentive structure, which is to produce content and to create streams of passive income through producing content. No one wants to have a job, and it's like, I feel like in this day and age, if you want to be a creative person and like have any kind of integrity, you need to like have a job. You need to have something else that's like paying your bills, so that when you come to approach making stuff online, it's just for doing it for the love of it. Because I feel like that's what drives a lot of the cynicism and the rot that we're seeing on the internet. The only thing I can describe it as is rot. This is not the internet that I remember of 10 years ago. It's not the cultural space that I remember of 10 years ago either. And it's precisely because we've allowed things to fall to this sort of rot. And AI is only sort of reflecting the incentive structure that was already present and exacerbating it, making it much worse.
It's showing the same incentive structure even down through education and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And it's kind of showcasing the hollowness of the point of most people's desire and what they see life for.
Most people are only going to... The reason students are using AI to generate their essays is because most people are only going to school, not because they are interested in learning or whatever, it's to get a degree so they can get a job, so they can earn a certain amount of money.
Yeah, and have
all of our incentives are fucked up, which is the reason why AI is reflecting... Our use of AI is reflecting it. It's not the technology itself that's like the problem. Our incentive systems are fucked up, and that's the reason why, you know, our use of this technology is beginning to reflect it. People are more concerned with getting to the product than they are with the process, because our culture is more concerned with getting to the fucking product than we are with the process, and it's ruining everything. It's eroding everything. Yeah, it's fucked up. What's being said?
J. George, I'm really happy with the music I'm making right now because it's the stuff I want to hear. Sucks that I'll never see a dime from it, but I won't bow down to the machine. Hell yeah, brother. Absolutely. And that's like all you can fucking expect or really want out of it at
life.
This stage, unless you want to sell your ass and try and be an example of what we're going to talk about next. Like, you know, you're going to do your thing, and unfortunately that kind of old mechanism that would reward people like fucking Les Claypool and make weird music and whatever, that just kind of doesn't really exist in the same way that it did when music was a physical product that was sold. And I don't think it will ever get back there. It will kind of only
something
exist.
new may emerge. I mean, I'm still very excited about the technology and its possibilities. So I'm not pessimistic to the point where I'm, you know, completely apathetic. I think that there's potential for new to emerge, but the old sort of 20th century models are completely dead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's the thing. That's that whole copyright argument, dude.
Yeah.
The internet is a genie and information out of the bottle.
Yeah.
And it's totally up to you and your choice on like how much you want to put that lid on the bottle. You have again controls. And you know what? Most people were happy.
Ritual containment.
Most people were happy with putting the lid on the piracy bottle as long as it meant that they had access to everything that they could ever fucking want to stream for fucking $7 a month or whatever Spotify was going to charge you, right?
Yeah.
And even that isn't enough. It isn't a business model to reward any of the musicians on the other end of it, right? So like it's only a business model that works for major labels and the tech companies themselves.
Exactly.
It is not one that rewards or benefits like independent musicians, I would say, in a large way. I think there's a case that it does, in that like you can kind of distribute your music on a kind of scale in which you couldn't in the past, but I don't know, it's kind of I could go on about this for a whole lot longer, and this isn't what the segment's about.
Fine,
I'm kind of getting on a rabbit hole now.
Ray of Light says Angie is giving femme queen with the fan. Thank you. It's from Kyoto, on our trip to Japan.
It is. If that's
I'm not like trying to flirt with you or be coy. It's genuinely hot.
You should make sure you look after that fan.
I am. I try my best to. But yeah, thank you for the compliment. Moving on from that topic onto the selling your butt topic.
Yeah, if you want to sell your butt, this is a prime example.
This is a prime example of how to do it.
How to sell your butt 101.
I'm pretty disappointed in the girlies recently, which is the next topic. Obviously, there's been all the conversation about Sabrina Carpenter's recent album cover, which we see here. And then I think it was last week you had Sydney Sweeney's bathwater controversy. And then not too long after that, you had that porn star Bonnie Blue, who she basically did a petting zoo. Well, she was planning on doing a petting zoo, which is basically inviting a bunch of men off the internet to, like, I don't know, do whatever they wanted to her, Marina Abramovic style type of thing. And it actually got cancelled from it, and she got dropped from OnlyFans. what she was doing was considered too degenerate for OnlyFans.
Yeah. Well,
OnlyFans finally drew the line at petting zoo.
I mean, it's all a little bit too little, too late. If you ask me,
I thought
if talking to genies put out of the fucking bottle, dude. Like selling your pussy online. I feel like that was a fucking genie in a bottle.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Once that has been unleashed now, and the reaction to that wasn't, oh, that's prostitution, but with extra steps and PayPal involved. You know, they were just like, oh no, that's empowering and that's fucking whatever. That is a genie now, which cannot be in any meaningful way kind of put back in the bottle. I think. Without I don't know, it would just take basically all these companies doing whatever. But I think now the kind of the political or the kind of public approach or general kind of vibe about this stuff is that you need to support it to be morally good.
Well, that's exactly kind of what we're seeing reflected in popular culture now with this sort of thing, because obviously we'll start with the Sabrina Carpenter thing, because that's like what caused the controversy. Obviously people were incensed by this album cover, and the title of the album it's called Man's Best Friend. And obviously it's a very kind of, I think it's like kind of like carry on 60s imagery.
No,
that's kind of
not
where
really.
I slot it in my head.
Not really. It's not like
she in her mind she was saying that she's like being cheeky and camp.
Yeah, but it's not carry on camp in any way. It's just like over the top, I guess, is like the way
maybe it's her Bridget Bardot bangs. I don't know.
The way that she's kind of going for camp. I think the word camp means something pretty different to what this represents. But if you're kind of going like over the top, then yeah, this is over the top in terms of what it's trying to do. This is like Butchered at Birth, the pop album cover. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like here, like Cannibal Corpse, like really heavy fucking death metal band with an album like Butchered at Birth, and there's dead babies on the fucking front cover, and then you have like there's some like slut harlot like selling a puss as like a fucking main way to get her music out there.
I think the reason why it was so
what does the album cover look like? Oh, of course it does.
I think the reason why it was so controversial is because like the vast majority of her fans are women. Like she tends to appeal more to.
Are they?
Yeah, she appeals more to women and like young women.
Are you sure it's not like Gen X men?
Probably Gen X men as well. Because Gen X men are perverts and they're horny.
Are you sure it's not divorced millennial and Gen X dads?
It is that too. They're the perverted Gen X dads and millennial dads love like Lana Del Rey and like Sabrina. They love the whole like Lolita thing, and it's because all the media that they were like indoctrinated with kind of played around with this.
Well, she's like the evolution. She's the evolution of that sort of coquette in a way, right?
She's the evolution of that coquette.
Where Lana Del Rey would be like, "Don't look at my hot, wet, tight pussy." Sabrina's Carpenter's just like, "Look at my hot, wet, tight pussy."
But it's like, what's next? It's like posting hole. Is that the next move? Is to just like post hole like on your album cover? Like that's what I feel like. That's.
Thank goodness Courtney Love didn't exist in this time period. Well, I mean, she does, but I mean, she wasn't like, she wasn't a young woman in this time period because my goodness, I don't think we could have handled it.
She wouldn't hesitate to post hole.
Her band would have been called Cunt. There would have been no like label guy coming in and being like, we do want to sell some records. Let's. We get the whole thing of what you're doing, but you don't have to be so fucking like obtuse about it.
But back to the whole controversy though, you mentioned Lana Del Rey, and like she was sort of the first, I would say, digital coquette. Because the reason I bring up this whole topic in the first place is because it has a lot to do with the digital era, and also the way that digital culture kind of dehumanizes women in that sense, and how. By dehumanizing yourself, you're following the incentive structure that's like laid before you. And Lana was kind of like the first to figure this out. A lot of what her early aesthetics kind of played to and pandered to the tastes of like lonely men. I mean, even the song Video Games is all about watching your boyfriend play video games or whatever.
There's a big influence on you.
How is it? Because I watch you play video games sometimes doesn't mean that I'm inspired by Lana Del Rey.
Are you sure?
No, I have ADHD and I like can't help but like look at the screen. It's completely different. But yeah, that was her whole thing, was sort of like pandering to the sensibilities of like horny, lonely dudes, and it put her on the map in that sense, and also the kind of frivolous feminine fantasies of women in that sense as well. And yeah, Sabrina Carpenter is like an evolution of that, but obviously now you can't just kind of hint at abject sexuality in the way that Lana Del Rey did with the whole kind of coquette Lolita thing. Now you have to be a little bit more explicit in order to get attention, and it's sort of going to continue escalating. I think it's going to keep getting weirder, it's going to keep getting worse, it's going to keep getting more abject. Women are going to continue to out-compete each other for the most sort of sexual object, dehumanized figure, until they're competing with literal robots.
I mean, yeah, that is one way of approaching it, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? As like being even more scandalous and like explicit and like attention grabby, right?
Yeah.
But you know, you're sure the pop game is somewhat of an attention game, but it's not a music game anymore. Are we just forgetting about this? It's
really
like it's not a music game. Nobody gives a shit about that anymore.
No.
It's just like it's all about just like not even the vibe. It's just kind of the culture of celebrity.
Yeah, pretty
like
much.
we went to go and see Tyler the Creator recently.
Yeah,
and it was the most alienating fucking gig of my entire adult life.
I was super disappointed.
And it made me like actually lose so much respect for Tyler the Creator. Like I don't know. It felt like he was just a spectacle now. He's not an artist. He's not the person and the whatever thing that I connected with when I was a teenager and when I first heard his music. He's also not that person anymore.
Yeah.
And not only that, but like he's so far from it.
Yeah.
And
it's more about the spectacle, the narrative, and also the sort of element of the culture that they're pandering to or like appealing to. And like you see it kind of with Sabrina Carpenter's current the part of the reason why that her female fans are mad at her is because like before they thought her like kind of hypersexual character was like a wink nod kind of campy thing for them. That she wasn't trying to appeal to the male gaze per se, but then they feel like this is like particularly internet pornified, male-brained kind of Gen X horny dad.
I mean,
centered.
So I know I'm going to sound like a boomer when I say this, all right? But I read a lot of like old classic rock kind of, anecdotes and tales, back in the day, right? And you had obviously the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and the Who and these, legends of British classic rock and stuff. But they were all pop stars. That was the pop of the fucking time, right?
Yeah.
They're all fucking pop stars. And sure, yeah, they weren't all like sexy women trying to sell their fucking pussy. I understand that. But like they were competitive, and instead of like being the most explicit, it was to like have the fucking coolest riff. And there was this fantastic anecdote I remember reading about Rolling Stones had Sympathy for the Devil out at the same time as the Who had just written Boris the Spider, and the Beatles were like, whoa, that's like the heaviest stuff we've like heard, like, so far. This is still the fucking 60s, but like this is the heaviest fucking shit we've heard so far, and we really want to write a song that's like as rocking and as kind of heavy as that. And that kind of spurred them on to write Helter Skelter, which is arguably one of the Beatles' heaviest kind of rock songs, and it's like you can kind of hear that story in that, and it was still one of their biggest songs ever. And it's just kind of that kind of being undeniable and being amazing at what you're doing to kind of outdo each other. And the rivalries between Elton John and Madonna and shit like that. Do you know what I mean?
Speaking of Madonna,
like how it's now just like, how can I most explicitly fucking sexually fucking signal to people?
Since you bring up Madonna...
It's just sad, man.
Since you bring up Madonna, someone in the chat asks, maybe I'm out of touch, but how is Sabrina Carpenter's cover any more controversial than anyone else's? I'm not necessarily saying that it's controversial. I'm just saying that it's like empty, and it's sort of empty sexual signaling. Like, for instance, in the past, like Madonna had like her sex book that was super controversial in the 80s, and of course she did things like simulate oral sex on stage, and back then that stuff was like genuinely subversive because back then female sexuality was a lot more stigmatized than it currently is. Courtney Love, for instance, the reason she was sexual and vulgar on stage is because she was trying to be like the male rock stars. She was like, male rock stars get to do that. I get to be fucking raunchy too. I get to be vulgar too. There was genuine reason and rhyme behind the madness. There was actually, what they were doing is actually subversive and sexy, whereas this is just pure pandering. And it's also pandering to a specific, it's not happening in a vacuum. It's happening during the time of OnlyFans, during the time where there's fucking AI chat girlfriends, during the time where you have people like fucking what's her face, Bunny Blue, making petting zoos, making a petting zoo of herself. It's happening during a time where female degradation
is seen as female empowerment.
Yes, that's what's disgusting about it, and what's uniquely what did you say, controversial about it. It's not it's not happening in a vacuum. It's happening during a time where female degradation is being pitched as female empowerment. And that's the reason why I think it's gross.
And we had then like Sydney Sweeney doing her fucking,
you gotta put it on the...
because you did the thing.
Sorry.
Yeah, and you had like Sydney Sweeney doing her fucking squanch fucking body wash bath soap shit as well, which
she's doing e-girl shit. Again, it's influenced by internet culture. She's an actress.
Yeah.
She's a legitimate actress that's like in movies, and she's like doing e-girl shit. And that's not to say that actors and actresses and stuff haven't done like bizarre endorsements or brand deals in order to make some money or whatever. But this is the first time we're really seeing a young female actress resorting to what was originally done by an e-girl, Belle Delphine, as a cash grab from her horny simps. And yes, Sydney Sweeney has a lot of horny simps. There are a lot of, again, the Gen X millennial dad trope is very real and very gross. But at the same time, she's an actress. She has a whole other revenue of income and of notoriety and of prestige that's available to her other than cashing in on horny simps. But the mentality these days is like, if you have horny simps, you should be cashing in on them as much as possible.
And it's morally good to do so. It's
empowering, actually.
That you are performing some kind of service, and that do you know what I mean? Like, there's kind of all this intellectualization around selling your pussy, which I just kind of, I think even like I had a friend I was at the pub with, and he was just sort of like, I've got a friend that's like got a sugar daddy, or something like this. Yeah. And I was just like, you mean your friend's a whore? like why? You have like you've got no chill, Jake. Why do we have to kind of obscure all these
fucking euphemisms
terms for whatever?
Being a whore.
Like, being a cam girl, being a whore, you know, that's kind of how you make your money, is through like, sexually exploiting yourself or whatever. Yeah. And that if you can see and morally justify
eyes
that,
freak me out. She looks like a White Walker.
She does.
She looks like a fucking White Walker.
I actually
like there's
think she's
something
really
soulless about this woman.
She's really not.
It's frightening.
She's really not. She's a very specific type of someone's idea of sexy.
But that's the thing is, it's people who are attracted to the abjection and the degradation of the feminine. And I think about 10,000 dudes signed up for her petting zoo. This is not like a fringe thing. This is culture now. This is the way that the feminine is being represented in culture.
I just grabbed this because like it was just like, what we're going to talk about. And I haven't read the actual article, but the subheading of this article does exactly what it's supposed to, and makes me angry and want to read the rest of the article.
Not now, because we don't have time.
No, but it's just saying those who rush to judge the porn star influencer are playing into the hands of the stunt economy.
Oh, fuck off.
So to be objected, even just to talk and be objected to it, is also morally wrong because you're playing into
really
the
stupid.
attention economy, or you're doing that because you would play
really
into
dumb.
the attention economy.
It's really dumb.
I can't really get it. I haven't
dumb.
had like the good kind of argument around, don't press the wrong button.
Sorry.
Just let me press the buttons, dude,
My
because
bad.
you always get it wrong. I haven't really heard the kind of I haven't heard the Marxist fucking whatever you'd call it, the manifesto around why selling your pussy is the correct thing to do.
I don't want to get into that.
You know what I mean?
I'm not fucking
Like
interested.
I haven't received that kind of idea. I
Go
don't
on
get
Reddit
like
or go on Twitter.
No, I think I've read
see all of the fucking brain.
I think I've read that
rot.
stuff enough, but I just like don't. It doesn't really get in. I don't understand it. I don't understand how they can think like that.
But either way, one other thing I noticed as well is that all three of them are blonde white women, and those are the only types of women that can get away with this kind of degradation without having it define them completely. Because they're like because you have the sort of characters like Sexy Red and Meg the Stallion, who are kind of these hypersexual like kind of black female figures. I mean, I was listening to a Meg the Stallion song the other day, and she like refers to herself as like the porn category Ebony in the song as she's rapping or whatever. I know, of course,
There's like a song from like the 70s or 80s called Ebony and Ivory.
No, it's
I don't
not talking
think
about
that
the porn
like
category.
Yeah, I know, but it's still talking about like the couple getting together,
No.
dude.
In the song, she's specifically referring to herself as a porn category. So yeah. Anyway, as I was saying, that you have black women in music have always sort of been hypersexualized and dehumanized in that way, and that's seen as like normal, and it defines them. Meg the Stallion, if she wanted to sort of clean up, if Sexy Red decided to turn a leaf, I don't think that their career would ever be the same. Whereas people like Sydney Sweeney, people like fucking, what's the name of the other girl? Sabrina Carpenter. You saw it with like Britney Spears and even Christina Aguilera, or all the sort of sexy, the girls who kind of played around with being sexy and like crawling around on the floor. They get to mature into women. They get to not be defined by their sexuality. But if you're not like, if you don't fit a certain archetype, that becomes who you are. And that's the reason why I think they're doing it, because they can get away with it. Sydney Sweeney can sell her bathwater and go back to starring in Hollywood movies. Sabrina Carpenter can go back to being a sort of innocent white girl whenever she wants to, because people will always sort of project that onto her.
Didn't Gwyneth Paltrow sell some soap that smelled like her pussy or something?
Candles on Goop, but that was specifically to women. It wasn't for like male pleasure or whatever, because her Goop is like aimed towards like wine moms and stuff.
Yeah, but I don't know, dude. I don't know about that.
What are the comments saying? Maybe Sabrina is just bisexual and her fans are overreacting. I don't know.
I don't think really it's her fans that have a problem with it. I think it's the sort of generally everybody else.
I think everyone thinks it's like bizarre. I don't know what being bisexual has to do with like self-degradation.
Yeah,
and calling yourself like a dog or whatever. It's weird. Not even remotely sexy. I agree. I'll defend Courtney as an artist 100%.
Only argument.
I'm not throwing shade at Courtney Love. I'm just saying that there was a method to her madness. Like, she was trying to be a rock star, which is why she was vulgar. She was trying to be like Kurt Cobain and, kind of wield almost male sexuality as a female musician, which is interesting and cool and sexy, but like it has a reason behind it. Was I saying Pretty on the Inside is one of the best grunge era albums. I fucking agree. Love that album. Still listen to it to this day. I have slightly differing opinion than most. But sexual degradation has been the norm for both genders for a while.
I don't really know how it's been the way for men.
Yeah, I'm not
if
sure
I'm honest.
how men are sexually degraded.
I have seen all the Zoomer boys taking roids and going to the gym. And I'm guessing they're kind of doing it for attention, but it doesn't really feel as kind of... it doesn't really feel as kind of
They're more like
prostitute-y as the women, because they're
No.
not like stroking it on OnlyFans for the money.
No, it's
Do you know what I
more
mean?
like it's more like a somatic narcissism thing with them. It's less of a like a
And it feels much more of like a traditional athlete's path of like, look at me get super yoked and now like this protein company sponsors me or whatever, right? It's not like, look at me get super yoked and now all these women are like clambering after me and I've got a successful OnlyFans of me stroking it online. Like it's not quite the same path, and I don't think it's quite the same behavior.
He was saying the OG Marxists were super anti-prostitution. Yeah, that was like the sort of OG Marxist position, and now the modern one is like this is liberating.
Isn't the modern one now that it's the true sense of owning your means of production or whatever the fuck, right? Because
Whatever Reddit slop,
you're selling your
Twitter
pussy.
slop.
No one can own your pussy but you, and you get to charge however much you want for it.
Yes, comrade.
Is that kind of
You tell
generally?
him, comrade.
Is that generally the gist I'm getting
You
there?
tell him, comrade.
Only argument I'd make is Beyonce, but she's actually somewhat talented.
Argument of what? Don't put Beyonce in the category of
That
these
she,
bitches.
I mean,
And
she
she's
does.
not only somewhat talented, she's super ultra mega fucking talented.
Does she use
don't
her?
put Beyonce
Does she use?
anywhere
Does she
near.
use her sexy body to sell her music?
Yeah, but she's also talented. She's like one of the best singers of our era, one of the best performers of our era. And her sexuality is part of that. She's not just a sex object by any fucking standard.
Is
and all the
she-
people who say that about her are just jealous because she's the fucking best. Out of all the pop star girls.
Okay.
She's the best one out of all the pop star girls, hands down.
She's also a demon.
Yeah, they're all demons. All of them are demons.
She's
but
also
the best demon
like
out of all the demons.
a billionaire demon. Like, you know.
She's the best demon out of all the demons. Out of all
Okay.
the pop star girlies, no one can hold a candle to her at all. Is all I'm saying.
I don't have any preferred demons, so you know.
Yes, you do.
That's how much
Don't
of
lie.
a
Everybody-
good boy I am, because I
everybody
don't have any
does.
preferred demons.
Everybody does. Everybody does. But yeah, someone says Ree, very talented but totally controlled by outsiders. Yeah, 100%. She doesn't write any of her music or really control her career in that regard. But yeah, she at least with because I think she falls into the category of the sort of older era of feminine archetypes because she's like in her 40s now. And again, there was a method to the madness. Whenever they invoked sexuality, it was always for a genuine reason that complemented what they were doing artistically, or that proves that, or that made some kind of cultural point. It wasn't just about appealing to like degenerate aspects of the culture.
Also just feels mean, like, you know, fucking Janet Jackson lost her whole career because her titty
Yeah, because
slipped
her
out.
titty fucking slipped
And,
out.
and now everyone's just selling their puss just
Yeah,
like because
yeah.
it's standard
But that's
practice.
what I'm saying.
It feels like really mean.
There's a double standard there in terms of what women can get away with doing certain things and still not being completely dehumanized by those things, and the ones that can't. And like you said, all that happened to Janet Jackson was her titty slipped out. And everyone like went fucking ape shit and like fucking destroyed her career over it.
It just it doesn't feel right, and it feels weird that the fringe position is to oppose selling your pussy online.
I agree.
And I think more people should just describe it like that.
Yeah.
Because I think trying to kind of use all the
Sex work.
all the liberal
SW,
words around it,
yeah.
like
obscures like what's actually going on and how soulless and transactional
yeah,
it makes these things erode.
it's like, oh, I'm sugar
human
daddy.
relations.
Oh, I'm sugar daddy. Oh, you're selling your pussy for things or money.
Yeah.
You know, just
Just
say it how
what
it is.
Yeah.
Like,
Stand on business.
oh, you're
as
selling your
the
pussy for
Zoomers
rent.
say.
Oh, you're selling your pussy for a place to live. It could mean all of those things, but it does mean selling your pussy for something. Like, let's
Exactly.
just be totally honest about it. Like, and that should come with certain amount of moral judgment and, you know, unease.
Yeah,
It shouldn't
bringing
be
that
something.
kind of transactional ethos into the culture erodes it, in my opinion. And I have to share the cultural space with everybody, and I don't want a cultural space where the incentive structure is purely like predatory and like transactional. And that's what normalizing this kind of stuff does. And also it dehumanizes women.
Gross. Right, I'm literally sweating my balls
Yeah.
off right now. I want to take my top off and smoke a fat joint. So let's
We're gonna
call it a
go
day
for
then.
the evening. Thank you very much for joining us. And we will be back again next week. Yeah,